how can you say, then you picked the wrong man? Well, I'm sorry, that man fit all my criteria. Like you said, he could have fit all your criteria. And you're still going to say, oh, well, she picked the wrong man. She should have chose different.
I would still say she picked the wrong man and she's responsible for it. But the thing is, that's a very, I mean, is that every relationship that's reflective in America? The majority is every relationship abusive? So
No.
that's an exception. So exception doesn't make the rule. So when I talk about like women, like you said that if you feel like I'm talking about all women, I'm talking about the majority. So when I say
But
most
how do you
women
know
are,
that's majority? How do you know
because
that's
there's
majority? Because you're
because
telling
there's data
me,
behind
because you're
there's
telling
data behind
me, okay, so, but you said you haven't really researched any,
for the abusive part. So I don't know what the
exactly.
reflect.
So how do you know? That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, you're saying all
Yeah,
this research backs you up, but what
since you
about,
brought it up, but since you brought it up, I want. That's why I was asking you. Do you know? I didn't bring up the abusive. You did. So if you bringing it up, do you know how many women? Do you know how many percentage of relationships today in America that's abusive? Do you have that data? Because I don't
I
know because I
don't.
didn't bring up the topic.
I don't.
Okay.
Neither of us
Yeah.
would know that, which
Okay.
I
Okay.
agree to. But it's
Yeah.
like the same thing as that you can have data and stuff, even for your, like you said, like majority, like you said, oh, majority of data is to this real life thing of
Mm-hmm.
marriages. Okay, that's, yeah, there can be data and there can be data for abuse also. But what I'm trying to get at is there's going to be different scenarios in marriages, and that's why I'm asking you, because like you said, 100% single moms bear that responsibility, which on some cases, like I told you, I agree in some cases that single moms do not intend to get pregnant, but it happens. And the father, doesn't want anything to do with it, and she knew that it wasn't a good guy, and it happens. I agree that in some cases that does happen, because it does happen. That's real life situations, that's real world shit. But what I'm saying is there's so many different scenarios, and you're still going to tell me that it's 100% the woman's fault in every scenario.
Because well, what's the definition of single mom? A single mom is a woman that has sex and the biological father left her and they're not married, right? That's the definition of a single mom. If she was married, you wouldn't be a single mom. You'd be a married woman, right? So can we agree with that? The definition of single mom is a woman that's not married, but the biological father is not there. She ends up raising the child on her own, right?
Okay. Right.
Exactly. So, all right. So, and that's why I have the data is uh, 50% of single moms are not married. So 50% of single moms are not married, which means that the guy had no intentions of marrying. He just wanted to hit it and quit it. So if 50% of single moms have never been married, so that means that's why I bring up one of the criteria. Make sure these guys are marrying. If the guy's married you, you avoid being a single mom. Make sure before you give up the womb, before you have sex with the guy, make sure he marries you. If you do that, you wouldn't be considered a single mom. You just be you be a wife that has kids with that. You want to be a single mom. And then also the second reason was make sure he's financially stable, because once you get married with a guy, if you want a guy to keep around, you want a marriage to work. On the data shows that 80% of divorces, the primary reason is financial stability, finances. So once you married a guy and he's shown the commitment, if you want the marriage to work and not get divorced, you need to find a guy that's financially stable, because 80% of divorces today in America, the reason why initiated by women is because of financial reasons. So not only marry the guy, but make sure financially stable. But if you see for the guy, never seeing what kind of job it is, if he's ambitious, if he has a career, if he's going somewhere with his life, it's just a deadbeat, a bum, then you slept with a guy that's a deadbeat father that has no job or has no career, then more likelihood that guy's not gonna be a suitable father. And the third thing is make sure you spend 2 or 3 years investment into the guy. 2 or 3 years. If you invest with the guy for 2 or 3 years, you have time to see his toxic behaviors, see all these things that you can overlook. And of course, you're still withholding from the sex. You haven't had the sex with the guy yet, so you're not emotionally attached to the guy. Because once you have sex with the guy, women, we know that we get involved, we overlook the toxic behaviors because we're now emotionally connected. Like we abstain from sex, you can look at them very objectively. So if you spend 2 or 3 years with them, everything is good, he's financially stable, and also the guy has married you before you have sex, then if he does all these things and you go with that guy, the data show that he has a high probability of being a father. But the thing is, women are not doing that. Women are having premarital sex, just having sex with any guy. They're having sex with guys that are not financially stable, because 24% of millennials from 21 to 29, age of 29 are only 24% of financially independent. Everybody else relies on their parents, and they can't support themselves. So people are having sex between the age of 21 to 26. These guys are, both the men and the women, both of them are not financially stable. So that's a big liability when it comes to raising a child. So that's why I have the data to support it, that if you want to be with a guy and it's going to marry you and long term, so you avoid being a single mom, make sure you have sex with guys who's going to marry you, take you serious. Make sure you have sex with guys that have a job, have a career that can support you, and also have sex with guys that you invested your time with them to communicate, see if you're compatible, what his morals are, what his valuable, is he toxic, is he got anger issues, all these things. But the data shows that women are not doing that. Women are not doing none of that. You're just having sex with guys. They're not married, premarital sex, having sex with guys. They're not financially supportive, independent on themselves, and they're not willing to invest 2 or 3 years into a guy. They just need a guy who can have sex, and once you have sex, you're just forced to get married, or forced to be in a relationship with that guy. So that's what's happening right now, and that's why there's a lot of single moms out there. So that's what I'm telling women is, like, be super selective. Please don't just have any sex with guys without vetting these men out, because once you have a child, it's a long-term investment. You're gonna be with that child forever. So would it be very logical to plan out your, because I know people today, they're just having sex with no plan for the future. I had a girl that was on the podcast today, the first girl, if you go back and watch, she literally said that. She's like, why would I care about the future? It's my body. I should just have sex with who I want. That's literally what she said. That's the type of mentality a lot of girls are having today. They're just having sex without no thinking about the future and the repercussions if a baby happens if a baby happens to happen, she gets pregnant. So if that's what's happening right now in today's society and it's not working, and a lot of single moms are being created every single day, then we need to do what's opposite. Do opposite of what the decisions of what women are doing today that's causing them to be single moms. Do the opposite. And everything I just mentioned is the opposite of how single moms today are choosing when it comes to being selective with their men, and why they're ending up being single moms and the guy not marrying them and leaving. So that's all I'm saying is be super selective of the men you are, and make sure he marries you, make sure he's financially stable, and make sure you're spending at least 2 or 3 years investment into him, and make sure that he's not toxic. And this is without sex. So if you do all that and it doesn't work out, what happens? Great news. The good news is you can leave the relationship and you're not pregnant, and you can just move on to the next guy. But if you don't do these things, you end up pregnant. The relationship doesn't work out, then you become a single mom. And that's why I say the 100% accountability is on the woman.
Okay, so that criteria that you have, you're telling me that exact criteria right there, that will make you have a strong bond, no fatherless kids, won't leave you, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the data shows that there's a high probability the guy will stick around, and it's gonna work out.
Okay, and what I'm still trying to get at is that they still leave, they divorce you, they leave you for someone else. That's what I'm trying to get at. You're still gonna put the blame.
Talk about divorce?
Yeah, I mean,
so that, if you talk
that's what happens, and that's what happens in some marriage. And like the man's not happy or whatever, they leave, they have an affair, divorce, single mom, right there. That's a single mom.
So I will. That's why I have my pushback to that is, divorces. 80% of divorces, over 80% of divorces, are initiated by the women. So the narrative that the men are leaving the relationship is not that the women are choosing to divorce the men. You go look it up. You can look it up yourself. 80% of all divorces. So if, like I said, so if they choose to leave the relationship, the responsibility falls back on her. She chose to end it. She ended the relationship.
But there's reasons behind why. Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty sure there's women that want to leave their marriage, for whatever reason. May that be an affair on the man's part. Okay, and finance or whatever. Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is all that criteria you're saying, financial, that's, like you said, that's important. Make sure financially stable. Well, what else was your criteria?
Make sure they marry you before you give it up.
Okay, before sex, interactions, any of that, get married. Again, you do all of those things, everything in your criteria pool, all of that. And he still flips the switch as, oh, this is not the man that I thought that I married. This is
Yeah.
not the man that I thought I fell in love with. And there's a lot of men that change into toxic men, and they're evil. I've seen it for
Yeah.
myself. And
I know.
right. And that is not bared on a woman. That man right there, that's him. He's the one that manipulated a woman into thinking that he was the perfect man and financially stable. Stayed
Yeah.
until marriage, to have that sexual interaction, like you said, that sexual intimacy, stayed through it all, and still decided to leave. And I'm going to tell you right now, that is definitely not the woman's fault. Like, you can't sit here and tell me and say, like, okay, well, you need to spend the 2-3 years of investment. Yeah, there's many people that date for so many years and then get married and then find out that is not the person that I thought you were. That is not the person that I thought I married. Do you get what I'm saying?
No, but the thing is, the data shows, and there's barely any women all doing all three. That's what I'm saying is, either they do one, either they only get married but never check the stability, or they never check his 2 years to make sure he's emotionally stable. Either they married for the money, but they never got married, or they never invested 2 years. So then there's not many. There's barely any women doing all three. They're only doing one. So that's those three things I just mentioned are one of the primary reasons why things don't work out. So that's what I'm saying is, if you do all three, the data shows that there is a great chance the guy's gonna be a good guy. But the thing is, most women today are just doing one of them because they're not fully vetting these men. There's not many women out there that's fully vetting these men fully, and also to make sure that they're selecting. It's 2020, they want people just casual sex. Women out here just having casual sex, and men also. But that's what I'm saying is what you're saying right now. What if he meets all of this? And yeah, that's a very hypothetical. Is it possible there's a guy like that exists? Yeah, but is there a lot of guys like? There's a lot of guys like that. No, that's like a few. That's not like the majority of why single moms today are single moms.
But how do you know that? Like, you're over here telling me, like, oh yeah, like that situation, yeah, that's real, but that's not a huge population of men or this, but it's just like neither of us, and I'll say me too, neither of us would know that, because we definitely don't go out on the streets like that man said, and hey, how's your marriage? Can you tell me, this and that? And you'd have to ask every single person in a marriage or even out of a marriage, oh, what happened? So neither of us are gonna know that, and that's a fact, because both of us neither know like any of all of couples problems and what happened. And also, you're saying most girls do this one thing. I'm speaking on the women that do all three, that do everything right. And that's what I'm, every time we talk about, okay, every time we stare towards men and not, bearing the responsibility or changing in the aspect of finally getting married and, like I said, totally switching face, not the same person they were before. It's like directed back, well, women need to do this one thing, or most women do this one thing, so it doesn't turn out right. Okay, yeah, there's some women, that maybe only do one or none of your, none of those criteria. I'm talking about the women that do all those things, that do it right, like I said. And you're still gonna say that it's bared on women when it is the man's fault in that situation. Yeah, I literally could, be in a relationship for 5 years with a man, be totally in love. I mean, you could be in a relationship with a woman for years and think that she is the love of your life, your soulmate, she's perfect, she's wifey material. And then, you did everything right. Waited for sex until marriage, made sure each other was financially stable on likewise, like a female. You looking for a female. I'm pretty sure that it'd be nice, on a man's side to look for women with, equal traits. They do good for themselves. They have good jobs. They're educated, and they get money for themselves, they are seeming prepared for a child to bring into a world like that, where someone is stable, and that's for us looking into men and you guys looking into women. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
No,
so that's why I'm questioning. It's just like, okay, yeah, women, what if we did everything right and the man still chose to leave or still did something?
But that's why you just said it. I know a lot of women that did all my criteria, but that's why I'm telling you the data shows the women are not